All right. Top of the NFL draft. We've speculated that maybe this would be a possibility. Could the Seattle Seahawks take a quarterback with the number 5 pick overall? You've obviously got the Bears, you've got the Texans, you've got the Cardinals and the Colts ahead of them, and Seattle sitting at 5. And Pete Carroll and the Seahawks were hinting at yesterday that it's very unique to them picking this high, courtesy of Russell Wilson and that awful season they had in Denver. And there is the potential that they could look at quarterback here, and it feels like it might make some sense. Geno Smith comes back. Maybe you do a franchise tag. Maybe you do a short-term deal. And if you've got an opportunity, and Brady, you've talked about this guy shooting up the draft boards, if Anthony Richardson is sitting there at 5, how do you not take a peek at that and want to build around him and make him the quarterback of the future? That feels like it could be a home run.
Yeah, especially if you're in a position where you don't necessarily have to take best player available at that spot. And I'm not saying that the Seahawks roster is there, but John Schneider, over the course of his time in Seattle, has done such a good job finding guys in the mid-late rounds to be impact players, starters for them, who've developed into being Pro Bowl caliber players, that I think he feels confident that if he spent that pick on a quarterback, Geno Smith would be the guy for a year, kind of the stopgap, and then they'd look to build and build on with that next quarterback they're looking to get behind. But man, he's got so much talent, so much ability. To me, I think the biggest difference when we talk about guys who have like high upside, but they might have a low floor. The low floor comes from lack of experience and lack of consistency in some of the things you see on tape. So, for example, when he can put together some throws where he snaps his feet around in the pocket, he navigates the pocket well, all the things you're going to be asked to do at the NFL level, and deliver an accurate throw, that's just the sort of thing that you want to see throughout his entire, tape and season while he was at Florida. And you wouldn't see that. You kind of see the ebbs and flows. And I don't know how much of that had to do with his supporting cast. I don't know how much of that has to do with his, offensive coordinator and play calling. And then how much of that has to do with him and just his growth and maturity at the position. But the times that you see him, whether it's the arm strength and his ability to, navigate the pocket or scramble out and just flick the ball 60, 65 yards downfield, which I think his longest throw on tape, the ball traveled about 63, 64 yards in the air. It's special. I mean, he's got some really, really special traits to his ability to move and throw. And he's perfectly suited for, this era of football where you're not asked to play from the pocket the entire game. You can get outside the pocket. You can design some quarterback run game. You can incorporate some RPOs, things to make it a little easier on the quarterback and how they're seeing the field. So I think it'd make a lot of sense for Seattle if they went that direction. But that has a lot to do, too, with the fact that Snyder drafted well last year. He's drafted well in the past. And I think he knows after that first-round pick, he could still find some potential starters and guys to add depth with the rest of the draft.
If it's petty enough, I will go with you draft a quarterback, whoever it is, at that pick, and you celebrate him as the first coming of a real franchise quarterback to lead this team into the future. If you're subscribing to being totally absurdly petty, and that's kind of where I would settle in on it. Like it seems as though that would be the final nail in the proverbial coffin of the relationship between Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson. And I just don't think that they've held any punches back against one another in terms of how they take their little shots at one another. So to take a franchise possibility caliber guy at that 5 position, which, I mean, there will be one at 5. I would take him. I would take – if there's a franchise caliber guy, I would take him. Now let me ask you guys this, and I could be off on this. DK is done, right? Like he's not up yet.
Yeah, no, he signed an extension last year.
He signed right. Now, what about Tyler Lockett?
So it says Tyler Lockett signed a 4-year extension back in March of 2021.
If you keep those two guys in place, and you know that Pete Carroll always finds a way to run the ball So it's not going to have – you're not going to put a tremendous amount of pressure on a quarterback. Plus, you already have success in Geno right now who could carry them for quite some time until that quarterback is ready. I think it's a win. I think that's a win to take a quarterback at 5.
You got Kenneth Walker.
You got the tools.
Brady pointed out, you drafted well last year. You've got another pick in the first round at 20. I mean, it could not have gone better for the Seahawks than it did last year.
They could really, really be a competitive team. I mean, they showed to be a better team than what people maybe expected they would be post Russell Wilson. But this really sets the stage for them to be a really, really different. I mean, don't they get Adams back? Like, he went out pretty early in the year. Their defense will improve.
I think he went out week 1.
He went out early.
Yeah.
So, I mean, good for Seattle. Good for Seattle. I would take a quarterback. If I'm them, I would take a quarterback. I don't know if the pumpkin hit midnight with Geno Smith. I like Geno Smith. I think it's a great comeback story. I think he did well. But, you know, these defensive coordinators get paid to do a job too. They'll have book on him. They'll go over it, and they'll game plan him, and we'll see if he's still able to have the type of success he was able to have this season.
What do you think a contract looks like for Geno Smith, Brady? Do they just go franchise, or they try and do something short-term and just say, hey, this is what it is?
I don't know why more teams don't use the non-exclusive franchise tag in this case. I mean, allow the rest of the market to do the bidding for you. You're not going to have to pay him the premium that you are if you're playing the exclusive franchise tag, which is like another 13, 12 million, something like that more. So it saves you a bit of cap space. And I think you'd be more than willing to say, yeah, we'll pay you that for a 1-year guaranteed deal because you've played well enough. And look, if you prove it 2 years in a row and we happen to draft a guy at 5, then we can reevaluate a year from now. And maybe he's ready after his rookie year. Maybe he's not. Maybe we do this for another year. But either way, you know, I'm sure Geno's looking at cashing in. The hard part is his age, the gap of time at the last time at which he was able to do it. And I think much like Daniel Jones, there's people out there who want to say, like, oh, I want to see you do it 2 years in a row, right? Then they feel much more confident in what you can be as a franchise quarterback moving forward. The only difference with Geno is that's just another year getting older, and so your shelf life isn't quite as long. So, you know, he might be frustrated by it, but I think it'd be a good opportunity to at least cash in on 30-some million guaranteed. But that would be the route that I'd go. And look, if you're Seattle and someone says we're willing to pay, you know, Geno Smith this longer-term deal, it's going to pay X, you say, all right, give me your first-round picks. Go sign him to that deal. We'll take your first-round picks, and we'll move forward.